our cause than the U.S. because the U.S. seems to be backtracking on its kind of being the policeman of so-called human rights abuses around the world, despite the fact that obviously not much was happening. Because again, interest Trump, all these other issues, but it's a bit disheartening that the U.S. is actually saying they're not even going to be calling out countries and regimes that abuse human rights. So the bottom line is that we, as Ugandans, unless we stand up and do something, no one's going to save us. We have to rally ourselves and our resources and our know-how to get our country on the right track. Yes, and then finally, Narukola, as you know, is being taken to court by Nambi, who says that the regime, that somehow 14 polling stations were not counted, and that Narukola bribed some voters, that the elections were not free and fair, the Electoral Commission failed to ensure that the elections were free and fair, because of the violence, which is obviously our party that was very much responsible for that. So there's a lot of what can I call it, machinations that are happening. It kind of really shows you the extent to which a regime will go to deny people their choice of candidate. So a precursor to 2026. So basically, we have to be prepared. Yeah, anyone participating in 2026 has to come, with a lot of strategies on how to counteract the regime's intentions, because clearly they're not going to accept defeat in many places, whether it's a local MP positions or the national ones. So it's a lot of work cut out for us. And again, I guess this is supposed to be a protest vote. What does a protest vote mean? We need to really, really kind of work that out. How is we gonna make sure that Ugandan voices are listened to this time, and that if they're not listened to, we actually, as Ugandans, say enough is enough. It's time for regime to go. So thank you so much, Dorcas. As I said, I'm leaving very shortly to go for an appointment, but I'll be here for another few minutes. Thank you so much. Dorcas, back to you. Dorcas, are you there?
Hi, comrade. You have a message in there. Okay, comrade James, Modi, guys, the mic is out. Still trying to sort out this noise that should in the background. I've got lots of noise that I'm trying to sort out. Comrade James, please do come in. Someone take the mic for a few minutes.
Okay. Oh yeah, all right. James or Muji, or let me see. There's a message here. James, anyone ready to? James William, can you please come in and give us your thoughts, or anyone else? Modi or James or Postcovia, please come in. No one is ready, huh? Right. Anyone, feel free to take the mic and give us your thoughts. So Mimi, please. Anyway, as I said, I'm about to leave, but maybe Mimi, you can take over.
Yeah, Sister Mimi, you can take the mic for a few minutes.
James is here. James is here, though. James seems
okay. Okay.
James, please go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. I slept late, and actually, it's Dorcas who woke me up. But yes, Uganda. Yesterday, I was looking at. I was asking myself, why do we borrow money? For what purpose do we borrow money? Yet we are a country with a lot of resources. And if you see some of the tweets I was making, but do we hope to borrow money and do what? shall we borrow money forever? I was just asking and comparing to Iowa, where I am. You move in the city and you see you call them skyscrapers, whatever. Those tall buildings that almost go to heaven. Then my question was, as Ugandans, do we hope to borrow money to build a Gulu city, Lira city, Soroti city, Jinja city? I don't know how many cities Uganda has now, away from Kampala city. And then you look at this small country. I don't know. I don't know whether Joseph, you can believe it, or people maybe think that I'm lying. A small country with 3.1 million people and having 947 cities. That means almost every village is a city, although not compared as the capital city. The 947 cities. Then I was looking at the younger people. Of course, I looked at the crowd. Every person who moves in Uganda, be it Bobby Wine, will raise a crowd of young people. Whether Muhozi will raise a crowd of young people. Then you look at Alien Skin, he raises and our people like praising every person moves. He has power. He has power. And then I'm like, but if you have power, what do you do with that power? If Alien Skin went to Ginger and raised the crowd and you call it power, is that power raising engineers, raising doctors, raising lawyers, or they just raise destitutes? Definitely, Ugandans like comparing. They will tell you that even America has poor people. But the quality of poor people here are people sometimes who have failed to cope up with the speed development, the fast life of America, or maybe they even lived it and then, because here it's like you must keep competing to stay up there afloat. Then I went to Walmart. You know, my Twitter space is just those small discussions. Then I go to Walmart. Walmart is an Owino market, of course. They say it's a market for poor people or migrants generally. But I just went to ornaments, and then you find these necklaces of $3,000, $6,000. I'm like, but what material are they made of, and who buys them? I'm generally comparing life here and life in Uganda. And as you continue moving here, then you get discouraged. But can we really change anything in Uganda? And then you realize for these things to happen, there must be good education, good government, and good laws. And then I go to state capital where they say law, the law books, the libraries of law books, mostly laws that have been passed through through discussions by senators and house reps. And then you have a library that the books almost go to the sky. The books, the law books, the laws that have been passed over years and that are respected. Then my question, if you just see my Twitter space, that when America was doing all this, where were we? And are we even ready to start off? Are we even ready to take off? If up to this day, we still complain, we still look at America, we still look at these other countries, because we are simply indebted to be alive. We are still indebted to be countries. When shall we have capacity to change things? Because people will tell you so many things. American democracy is over 200 years, whatever. But who doesn't deserve? So who of us thinks he needs a life of 200 years to live the life we try to live in America? Why can't this change that we all desire look like a dream that we must pursue? The American dream. That's what they have here. The American dream. What's the Ugandan dream? You know, you need to look at young people in Uganda. Each time you see them, sometimes you just feel like giving up. The conscious level, their consciousness, the conscious level is just not there. You can't wake up and follow politics or follow politicians whom you don't hold accountable. So those were my small stories throughout the week. You know, you go out and look at, I concluded with entering the museum, which I have not yet posted, the Museum of Iowa, right from the settlers, how people moved in, how the population is growing, and the rate at which the population of Iowa is growing, and what leads to growth. Then there are these stunning questions I keep asking myself. Of course, the questions that are also a nightmare. The capital city where I am, which could be like Kampala, has only 700,000 people. 700,000 people. Kampala, I think, has about 4 million people, which is almost the population of Iowa. But the quality and the level of organization, you keep asking yourself. In fact, when I drive around, I'm like, but are people in these buildings? Oh, these are just empty buildings. Were these buildings an act of creation or they were built? You know, you want to look for somebody who did it. You want to look for people who did it. How did they do it? Even you say Iowa has 3.1 million people and they only built the capital city, which is Des Moines. How did they do it? So for me, Joseph, I just get stunned that I can walk around with this mind that is inquisitive. Everything I see looks like a miracle. But Joseph, ask yourself, even if the Kampala we talk about, the little infrastructure that was left to us almost started with the colonizers, as we say. What can we do on our own as Africans or as Ugandans? The people who have been given cities are busy struggling in Kampala. If you ask me, where is the leadership of Gulu? Where is it, if not struggling in Kampala? The fights are always in Kampala. To the extent that when I made a tweet that it's like all the time, our concentration is in. I sometimes go tribal. People actually, one tweet generated me a lot of quarrels. I like, all the time we are wasting time to try to bring down Buganda. That's what I said, and the people started harassing me. That people follow you so much, such that it is not you. I said, but what are we doing in Kampala? If I asked you, what are you doing in Gulu after you have gotten a city? So, Joseph, those are my small arguments throughout the week. That when you walk through America, you get discouraged that no, we are doing nothing. We can't even achieve it. Because for me, that's the big picture I have.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. I'm actually about to leave. I just was waiting for you to finish your submission. Yes, so thank you so much. Yes, we have a long way to go, but of course, I think before you talk about building skyscrapers or that, you need to sort out the, things like, basic things like the economy, how people have jobs, agriculture, which is the mainstay of Uganda. We have a lot of land which can create a lot of industries, agricultural-based industries, processing. Before you build cities, people have to have employment. People have to have education. They have to have the basics. The economy has to be working, because otherwise you build a city and no one is in the offices, the buildings are empty. So we need to sort out, invest in the economy, the economy that actually empowers Ugandans. And before we actually compare ourselves to the US, we need to look at countries like Singapore, which were where we were at independence, very, very poor third world countries. But they what did they do? They said zero tolerance to corruption and non-nepotism, ensuring that people that were in offices were qualified for those positions, not my cousin or my brother or whatever. They ensured, there was no discrimination, and whoever is in office was there because they were competent. And zero tolerance for corruption, and they made examples from the very top ministers, unlike us in Uganda, whereby, they make examples of the smaller people, but the people on top kind of get away with everything, corruption as a specific. Singapore, within 30 years, changed from third world countries to now one of the most developed countries in the world. And its educational system is one of the very best. Actually, I think it's better than the US in terms of, in many respects. So we need to look at countries that transition over a short time from where we were to what we are currently. And in terms of what am I going to say? In terms of the comparison of the states, you're talking about cities in like Lulu, Soroti, and all that. Iowa, actually, Mr. McGinney, is actually what is the equivalent of a regional state, a regional government, like regions like what's that? Choli, Bugishu, Toro, Bunyoro, Buganda. These states in the US are equivalent of our regions in Uganda. So Iowa is like, you would say maybe Bunyoro, the region of Bunyoro, and it has its own capital and its own state. It's not really a country per se, but it's a region. And so it's a good question is, each region in the United States, because it's a federal system, are given certain capacities to kind of promote the agricultural, whatever the industries, the local industries, to do certain things. Of course, the central government or the federal government has obviously more resources, collects more taxes, but regions collects a good percentage of taxes, both on income and sales and all that kind of other revenues to enable it to do certain things locally. So that is what is true decentralization is. In Uganda, we have something which is very much the URA collects all the revenue and then decides whether or not they're going to give you, how much they give you, or anything. So there is hardly anything apart from the market dues, which are almost nothing. Our people are extremely poor. All the revenue goes to the URA, and then the URA kind of decides what to do. But these other regions also have capacity to retain a certain percentage of their, if they have minerals or if they have anything, they retain a huge percentage of the revenue that are generated from the revenue, from the resources they have, whether it's agriculture, whether it's oil, whether it's minerals, that, it's not all national. Like there is a federal system allows for that kind of distribution. Okay, if Bunyoro has oil, how much does Bunyoro retain? Maybe 13 or 15 or 20% of the revenue generated in Bunyoro stays in Bunyoro, and the rest of it goes to the central government to distribute as it wants. So this is what, so it's about governance. Also issue governance. We cannot get where to the Iowa, to the regional governments, whatever, until we sort out the governance question. And that's why we as Ugandans, we need to ensure that we get away from this, regime that is, basically has ruined. I mean, Uganda was actually, especially in the 60s, was kind of moving forward. Even though it was not perfect, but it was a bit better than we are today. So it's about governance. We cannot get to where we want to go until we sort out the issues of governance, democracy, and lack of, zero tolerance to corruption. So that is very much the very bottom line. So thank you so much, James, for those observations. But I think we need to really just first deal with the issues we're dealing with of, okay, how do we get ourselves away from Museveni, and then put in place a system and constitution that and regulations that say, you know what, you're not going to tolerate corruption, you're not going to tolerate nepotism, you're going to make sure that whoever is in position is in the position that they're in, they've gone through, proper vetting, and they're qualified for their jobs. And how do we ensure that the regions of Uganda are empowered to do certain, to kind of retain some of the wealth, or whatever wealth generated or revenue generated from resources in their areas, and that they can kind of empower themselves without necessarily depending 100% on the central government to help them build whatever schools or roads or whatever they need. So thank you so much, James, for that. And with that, I actually, Dorcas, I actually have to go. So I'm gonna pass on the mic to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Comrade Joseph. And we should see you a lot later. You have a good Easter in case we don't see you again. But yes, guys, continue to share the link, and let's get our brothers and sisters here to discuss matters pertaining to motherland, Uganda. Yes, Sister Mimi, do come in, and then we should be able to rotate the mic, and we close in a few minutes. Yes, Sister Mimi, please do come in, speak to us. How are you? What's on your mind? And thanks a lot for that prayer. Thanks.
Yeah, welcome everybody again, but well, not bad, but well, this week has been interesting, many things happening. But one of the things that I have to start with is so the junta calls, I don't know what meeting it was about, because I'm not interested in knowing the details anyways. But he was calling people, the people there, they are poor people. And I'm like, really? Ugandans, that is an insult.
Sorry.
An insult to us, Ugandans, calling us poor, you poor people, poor people. When he came in the 1980s and 1980 and 60, how was he? Was poor. He had nothing to his back. But Ugandans have given him that privilege to run a country that even he's not a citizen. And he calls them poor when he himself has made the people poor. Ugandans, if we don't know we are poor in the diaspora. You're not at your home. We are poor here. We are living in houses. We are paying bills. Many of us cannot even invest in anything. You just live by paycheck. You just live by tomorrow, you know, as long as that job is still there, that is how you're depending and how you're staying. Maybe diaspora people think that we are rich. We are not rich, we are poor. Even the poorest, even the people in Uganda are more rich than us, and yet they're even poor. They don't know, they live by day, on a daily whatever. But how can this guy insult people like that when he's the one who's causing the poverty that is going on in our countries? Uganda is so rich in minerals, they steal them at night. They make contracts with people that even, remember, resources in our country should be approved. Anybody taking such contracts should be approved by this silly, good for nothing parliament. But even we never even see the revenue that comes from the oil they are exporting. And they tell us on public forums and public media that we are still in. They already made contracts and with them and contracts with these companies that come from out. I understand right now there's another is in eastern Uganda. Jinja, Bugwere region around there, you know, Samia region, there are rare minerals that the world is hunting for. And there's an Australian company that was contracted to mine those rare minerals. And you know, they are getting rid of the locals around those areas. And you know, these rich people are going to buy land around those areas where there is mining. But Ugandans, and this guy comes here and tells us we are poor people. Poor. Kyokka omusajja Museveni talina nsonyi mu gundi ezo. Wajja otya mu 1986? Walina ekintu kyonna. Wava Sweden, you had nothing. Uganda gave you the privilege. Ate weerimbikawo, you killed every single person who came with you. Through trickery. And then you call Ugandans poor. Poor. You've made us poor. Every single thing that there's nothing that anybody benefits. You bring your entire family. It governs from every single ministry. RDC is everywhere. You send in every single damn region, you know, and you call Ugandans poor when you're stealing from Ugandans. You know, and then now you're calling Ugandans, but that's an insult to Ugandans. You know, don't call Ugandans poor when they gave you that privilege to lead them. While you are in Sweden, somebody called you and said, you know what, Obote has been taken down. Then you took a plane and came to Uganda. And then you killed all the Kairas, the Nkwangas, all the Birigas, all these people who fought. You killed them. And then you come and call Ugandans poor. You've killed their education. You've killed their capacity. And an entire generation of the youth is in prison because of you. You've taken youth Ugandans to war when your children. Why aren't your children in there? The children you give scholarships to go and learn these military tactics. And these poor Ugandans, you just teach them how to do the gun. And then you send them out to one, you kill them, and these people are never compensated. Their families are never compensated. Right in Uganda, you don't temunyigako. Why don't you? And let us get away from that thing in colonialism. Colonialists left 60 years ago. And they gave you governance, and you decided to start giving people like this person who calls you poor. You go and swam around him for money that is even yours. Imagine you're the owner of this rich country. Nemuswama abaweko obukunkumuka. when he chooses. Manange, Uganda, let us be mad about that. Diaspora people don't think you're comfortable in your wherever you are and think that you're well off in your comfort because you're not, you're out there. We are poor. That is what the guy said. In a country that is very rich, where they are stealing every single resources, forests. Look at Lake Victoria, the way it is. These guys don't even have a creative mind that says, let us at least develop the country that we are stealing from. And you guys, Ugandans, just keep quiet. And you stay in your own little corners. And they call you to spaces and you stay behind. That's why the guy is ruling us and stealing every single thing in Uganda, where we are looking like this. Tunyigeko. Let us also do the unthinkables. There is always sacrifice for anything you need, and you'll never ever, you'll never ever fight for anything. You never get a good thing unless you fight for it, unless you sacrifice for it, unless you invest in it. You go calling out Americans, calling out Europeans, whatever, to fight your battles, when you, the citizens, the owner of the riches, are just sitting there waiting for other people. That's how they rule us. That's how they rule us. They are also waiting. You mean they are going to sacrifice their people while you, the citizens of a country, are just sitting there waiting for other people to help you? Let's get out of that lazy mentality. Right now we have an advantage of getting onto the technology, internet and whatever, and do sharing netulema. Voicing your opinions nebalema. Nemugenda nga muswamirira obukunkuma bwe babawadde. That is sad. Ugandans, we are rich. Tell that guy we are very rich. You're stealing from us. Stop calling us poor. Back to you, Sister Dorcas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sis. Yes, free Uganda. That is what we're discussing today. Who is going to free Uganda, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, let us have a moment of silence, and then we will carry on with the discussion of this was Bismarck. He was only 14 years old when he took his when he was taking his exam. That's November 2016, hoping to become a health worker in Kasese. Tragically, just a few weeks later, Bismarck was among the victims of a violent attack on Rwenzururu by the Ugandan army. Bismarck's dream of becoming a health worker and contributing to his community were cut short by this senseless act of violence. And guess what, guys? Bismarck's story is not the only one. There's so many, countless Ugandans that have been murdered by the dictator, by Museveni's regime. And we cannot keep silent any longer. It is insane for us to just be silent. We've seen the floods, the city flood, when there's just even a little rain. And these guys are just pocketing, the regime is pocketing so much money. And I do not know what they're doing with all these funds. If only they could take even that 100 million or whatever, 2 of those can fix the entire flooding situation, I guess, in the cities. Yeah, so there is so much that is happening. I'm sorry, I'm talking randomly on the floods because that came to my mind. So many people were swept off in those floods. So many people drowned. And we just keep watching this injustice. Somebody was shot, a young boy, a child, and we keep quiet. We cannot keep quiet any longer, ladies and gentlemen. Let us reclaim our nation. Let us see to it that we fight to free ourselves from captivity. Thank you so much for observing the moment of silence. We will carry on with the conversation. Before I hand over to you, Ellen Prezo, Sister Pressy, please do come in. Sebganda Richard, I see you. Dora, Deborah, David, you will all come in. Let's take a round at the mic before we close. Yes, Sister Pressy, how are you? What's on your mind?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening in from. And happy Easter, happy Holy Saturday, happy Easter in advance. A lot is going on, let us agree. And it is going on that the citizens, as ourselves, we are either there or never there. Or we are leaving it someone whom you very well know that is not bothered, and is not going to be bothered, because I love the way Dr. Oz called them a destitute population, that we don't care. All we care about who was hit, or why did you hit so and so. That is our papa, that is our so and so. But what matters most, it is none of our business, and it is very sad. But this was intentional. That the regime created, and the so-called leaders also, they're like, yes, that is where we want you. When Doctor was talking about the resources, imagine the whole country full of resources. We have wet and dry seasons, and there is no reason as to why we are poor. Where the person is in which village, because even the Kampala we are seeing was also village. Where the person is in which area, whether you have to take a boat to reach that place, it can be developed. Because all these countries we admire, they were not created like this. God created the world and put it there and put people. So whatever brain they give us, and that's why who does not have white blood cell? We all have blood. But what do we see? How do we use our brains? These countries were created before Africa was created before these countries. But why is it that we are the poorest? But it all comes with the leaders. It all comes with the leadership. I can't imagine that we have gold left, right, and center. And what is left? You are displaced. Comrades,